Welcome everybody to 52 Living Ideas. We're going through chapter 18. We're beginning with verses 40 to 44. I'm reading from Sri Aurobindo's translation. There is not an entity, either on the earth or again in heaven among the gods, that is not subject to the workings of these three qualities or gunas born of nature. The works of Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras are divided according to the qualities, that is gunas, born of their own inner nature. Calm, self-control, asceticism, purity, long-suffering, candor, knowledge, acceptance of spiritual truth are the work of the Brahmin, born of his swabhava. Heroism, high spirit, resolution, ability, not fleeing in the face of battle, lordship, Ishvara Bhava, the temperament of the ruler and the leader, are the natural works of the Kshatriya. Agriculture, cattle keeping, trade, inclusive of labor, of the craftsman and the artisan, are the natural works of Vaishya. All works of character, of service, fall within the natural function of the Shudra. Okay, let's go to Yogeshwar. Yogeshwar, go ahead.
न तदस्ति पृथिव्यां वा दिवि देवेषु वा पुनः सत्त्वं प्रकृतिजैर्मुक्तं यदेभिः स्यात् त्रिभिर्गुणैः. After having talked about all the gunas, the three gunas, Krishna here is saying that all the perspectives that are put into point, the body, the mind, that have the gunas, even the links between them, the cycles that happen between them, the interactions with the world, everything has three gunas. There is none that is on this earth, or even like in the heavens. When Krishna is saying that none on this earth or even in the heavens, talking about anything that you could think about, yeah? Whether it is present in front of you, or is it something that is metaphoric that you can't really see in front of you, something that you will put above yourself, anything is not void of these three gunas. Everything comes within these three gunas. Prakriti jair muktam yadebhi syatribhir gunai. If everything comes within these three gunas, then they are played out by these three gunas. You can see the sattva, you can see the rajasa, and you can see the tamasa in all the living beings, may it be, or even non-living things. In the way that they affect you, they have those gunas. Because the main point about the gunas is how you perceive something, is your interaction with something. If that particular object, may it be non-living, if you interact with it constantly and it takes you within a certain kind of guna, then you will attribute that guna to that object. For example, foods that we eat, the first thing that Krishna pointed out in chapter 17, they have gunas. It doesn't mean that they have gunas like intrinsically. It means that they have gunas because you interact with them. the way you interact with them constantly, they have this way of interacting with you and putting you into those gunas, the Rajasa guna, the Tamasa guna, and the Sattva guna. When you interact with that and you are within that guna, you realize that this object has a particular kind of guna because of your interaction with it. Brahmana kshatriya visham shudranam cha parantapa karmani pravibhaktani swabhava prabhaver gunai. And then Krishna is talking about these four categories that are prominent at that particular moment in the ages. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Visham, Visha, that is the Vaishya, and the Shudras. Karmani pravibhaktani swabhava prabhaver gunai. They all have their gunas. They all have their intrinsic gunas. May it be Sattva guna, Rajo guna, Tamo guna. In their own percentages, some may have like 60% Sattva guna, and as we know, all of them have all the three gunas. But then there is the percentage difference between them. The karma that they do is also separated because of the gunas that they have. The karma itself, let's say the karma that they do, doesn't really have a guna because karma is brought about by a person. The person who does the karma, then that karma now has a guna. That karma now builds up a guna because there's a specific type of person who is doing the karma. And those karma that those people do, it's not just haphazard, or it is not just, I wish to do this today, so I'll do it. No. That karma that has been subjected to them is because of their own intrinsic swabhava. It is because of the percentage of gunas that they have. A person who is of high sattva guna should do a particular type of work. He shouldn't be involved in other types of work. Now, that doesn't limit him. Rather, it allows him to flower in the particular type of work he's doing. Because if the karma that you're doing matches with your own swabhava, it will allow you to manifest your own talent within that area. Normally, when we're talking about these four varnas in the modern day, what it normally feels like is that it binds you. Like if you are a Brahman, you should only do this. You can't do any other thing. Rather than binding, at that time, like when the Rishi Munis, when the sages were giving this out to the people that this is a way to live, the Rishi Munis meant it like this, that you are of a particular kind. You should know it first. When you know that you're of a particular kind, then accept the karma that will take you to flower within your own swabhava. Rather than having so much of karma in front of you, not knowing what to choose from, and then maybe choosing one thing one day and then not doing well in it. Just imagine like a person has done a degree in doctors, like he's become a doctor, full-fledged doctor. Now, it's good for him to have a hobby of being of a musician, that's fine. But just think about an instance whereby he thinks that all this time that I've taken in doctors was wrong. Now, what I am really meant for is to be a musician. There will be a bridge that he could not fly over. Why would that be? Because all his time that he could have been able to flower his music or play his best instrument. He has taken into a profession that doesn't really help in the music profession. When that rift happens, when that he cannot now cross the bridge over, it's really hard. Now he may become a musician, that's fine, but he won't be able to flower in the highest way possible. That is why Krishna is saying that the Rishi Munis who have brought this up, they are looking at it from your own Swabhava. They are looking at it from the perspective of who you are and then what type of karma you should do. It is not depriving you of any other karma. Rather, what it is doing is giving you your best karma to do. And that karma is not given to you haphazardly, it's given to you thoughtfully. What type of person you are matching with the type of karma that you should be doing. Now, Krishna has talked about the karma and the interactions. Krishna is now talking about more inside the person. If you're going to do a sattvic type of karma, if you're going to do like the kind of karma that needs knowledge of the highest order, which is being a Brahmana, then what type of qualities should you have? Or when you're a Kshatriya, what type of qualities should you have? Shamodamastapah shaucham shantirajavamevacha cha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma swabhavajam. There are these certain types of qualities that a Brahmana should have. It is not that they are born Brahman, because even in the Skanda Puran, as we had discussed before, when this topic came out, Janmana Jayate Shudro, meaning everybody is born a Shudra. Nobody is born a Brahman. Krishna here is saying that who is a Brahmana? A person who has these qualities is a Brahmana. When he is capable of showing these qualities is when he is given the Yajñopavit. And the Yajñopavit is called, after having been given the Yajñopavit, he is called a Dvija. Dvija meaning he has been born again. The Dvi means two, second, and Ja means Janma. So this is his second Janma. He's being born again. When that is given upon him, it is not given unto him without looking unto his qualities. He has to have those qualities to be given the Yajñopavit, to be given the Janai as we know it today. When those qualities are looked at, then he's given this Yajñopavit. Now he is a Dvija, he is born again. In a way of being born again, now that perspective is that he has to live a life in a certain way for him to be able to get to his highest level of being. Because we know that even though we know that our being is intrinsic, we are different from another person who is next to us. That's fine. But then there's certain types of karma that you can all be doing in your own way. It may be a separate way. Like you have that little twist of your own. The way you can do that karma, you may all be having the same talent, like painting, that's fine. But everyone does it with their own twist within it. That is what Krishna is saying, that being a Brahmana means. It doesn't mean doing all the karma in the same way. It means doing that particular karma that a Brahmana is meant to do, meaning the Vedas, the Shastras, the scriptures, bestowing it upon other people now, how they should understand it, in a way that you have your own personal touch onto it, the way you've understood it, and then not only to the intellect, but then after you have gotten onto that stage of being that the Shastras are saying, Then when you're telling other people, you're not telling other people only your experience about your body or only your experience about your knowledge, but you're telling people about the experience of your own nature, of your own being, whereby people will not now, they may not do the same karma as you're doing, which is the bodily aspect. They may not think the way you're thinking, which is the mental aspect, but they will get to the swabhava, which they're meant to get to. And the qualities that they should be having include tranquility, like the peace within them. That tranquility that you get within yourself, certain stages. Dhammaha, tapaha, they should have also the austerity. Now, what a Brahmana is meant to do is get to Brahma. Like the word itself, Brahmana, is made of the word Brahma, which is the highest level of being. When you can get to that level of being is when you are called a Brahmana. When do you get to it? You must have had all these qualities within you, being pure within yourself. And then there is two aspects to this, whereby there is the road to getting to Brahman, and then having reached Brahman, there is a different kind of explanation to this. When you're on the road, yes, you must have this tapaha because you want to get to Brahman. You must have this purity within your body and your mind. Arjavam, meaning you should be the same in and out. It should not be like I'm thinking something else and I'm doing something else. Or that I say something else to the public, but when I'm in person, I'm doing something else. Riju means a person who is straightforward. Jnanam Vijnanam Astikyam. Jnanam meaning knowing all the Shastras, knowing what the scriptures are saying, and then Vijnanam, knowing yourself, knowing what Swabhava means, knowing what the gunas mean, having the experience of what you are meant to do, which is going on to Brahman. Then Astikyam. Here is where most translations, most modern translations, they have a way of putting the liu in within. Because we only know Astikya as a way that we should just accept that Brahma is. Rather, what Astikya means is that you have experienced it. What Astikya here means is that there's no saying yes, there's no believing. It is just a yes from your own being, because having known fire, there's no putting logic around it. Like, what does it look like? Or does it look like earth? And does it have the qualities of water? No, it's not that. It's not believing that there may be some fire, but it is actually experiencing the fire itself, experiencing that the sun is within yourself, experiencing the jyot, experiencing the deep, that candle light that is burning within you, and it doesn't waver away at any point in time. When you've experienced that, is when Krishna is saying that is Brahma Karma Swabhavajam. That is the karma that is meant for the Brahmanas. And where does it come from? Is it put in by the society? Or is it that their family puts it onto them? No, none of them. This karma is Swabhavajam. This karma comes from their own within. This karma cannot come from outside, because how Indian philosophy looks at karma as well is a manifestation of your own self onto the world, not the manifestation of the world onto you.
Thank you. Yogeshwar, what I want to do is I want to focus on this verse by verse. So I want to ask you some questions about the nature of Brahman, Brahmin. A profound point here that Krishna is making is that this is about swabhava. It means your own nature. And these are distinctions of swabhava. So I want to go through it one by one. So I want to take the time to understand what a Brahmin swabhava is. So I want to come at it from in multiple angles and folks, and then I'll open it up for questions. I think it's very important to understand this concept of Brahmin because it's a very crucial, this is very deep part of the Indian culture of what this is, that this is a swabhava. So this is what shall I say? I don't know how to even say this. This is like the profound reverence of knowledge, of trying to understand the world and your own nature. And that being a person's swabhava, a person's nature, that's what they're trying to do. So I don't know how to, so let's take our time to understand this because this is a crucial part of the Indian culture and Indian civilization. So I'm going to come at it with questions. So firstly, Yogeshwar, can you talk about a Brahmin swabhava in relation to the three gunas and what the dominance, what the dominant guna is in the description of Brahman that we just read?
Yes, so the Brahmin himself is more of a sattvic kind of person. He is more of a person who will be like, I know that the Brahman exists because that's what astikya means. It doesn't mean belief, it means knowing that Brahman exists. Now, there are two stages in this, and that's why there are two ways of translating this verse. The two stages are a Brahman who has not yet become a full-fledged within his swabhava. He's not flowered fully. He's on the way. And Krishna also calls him a Brahman because if you're on the way, you know a bit of your swabhava, because always in the world there's a bit of like, I know my swabhava, but there's some things in the world that are pulling me, and that is always going to be like, the only way that that is not going to be is when you get to the topmost, like the flowering point of your own swabhava. That is when that is not, like, you know who you are. When you know that you are of a certain kind of swabhava, it's like in modern times, knowing your own talent, knowing what you are like very good at. And then you'll do it not because of money. You'll do it not because somebody is asking it from you. You will do it because you are meant to do it. You don't know how, but you just have this talent whereby you just pick up the brush, and when you paint on the canvas, it just paints itself rather than even you painting it. That is what Swabhava is. Now, where we are saying that Sattva Guna is more in Brahman, we have seen how you can do each and every karma within Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, and Tamo Guna. The Brahmana type of person will be doing all these karmas within the context of Sattva. That is fine. But then Krishna, as we talked about in chapter 14, is talking about knowing your gunas, like Sattva, Raja, and Tama, knowing that none of them are intrinsically bad because everything comes out of Brahma. Nothing is void of Brahman, even Tamoguna. You can reach Brahman even with your Sattva Guna, even with your Rajo Guna. Stay in your own Swabhava. If it is your Swabhava, then you are doing it right. If it is not your Swabhava, then you are meandering around. You won't get to the destination as quickly, because when you have, there's a way of the highway whereby you know your swabhava, you're just going straight. And there's another way where going by other pathways that are smaller, narrower. Those pathways are there, they're fine, but then they won't be the straightforward way. Krishna is saying the straightforward way of doing, of a Brahmana being in his swabhava is being in the sattva guna. When he's giving, when he's even giving dana, it's like he is giving dana out of gratefulness that I have been able to give dana to this person. Like, and he's grateful to that person whereby he is accepting my dana, he's accepting what I'm giving him. That is the type of purity that the Brahmana has.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to ask two more questions. And then if anybody else has any questions about the nature of Brahman, please go ahead and type exclamation mark. You can go ahead and do it right now, but I'm going to ask first two questions to set the context. The second question is about the yogas, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Dhyana Yoga. Which of these is dominant in a Brahmin, and any thoughts about the relationship between the yogas and the Brahmin Swabhava?
Yes. So what the Brahmanas are meant to do in all of those yogas, in all of the four, because we know that Krishna has said that all of them are there, and you should know what your Swabhava calls upon. You should know what you should be doing, what your Swabhava is saying, not what you're born in or what your society says or what your family says. Here, what Krishna is saying is that all the four are there for all the four varnas. What a Brahmana will be able to do in all the four is make them pure. Any that he chooses, yeah. If he chooses Dhyana Yoga, then he will make it so pure that when he's translating it upon the others, like when he's translating it upon the Kshatriya, like Krishna is able to do, he will be able to tell them what, if they're supposed to do, for example, Karma Yoga, what it should mean for a Kshatriya, particularly. And, you know, and translating this is rather difficult without knowing it, because a Brahmana knows it so well. He can tell now the Kshatriyas that this is how you're supposed to do it, the Karma Yoga. And it's not that the Brahmana will not do Karma Yoga. He will do Karma Yoga, but it will be in his own way, in his own unique way. Now, the Kshatriya won't do the Karma Yoga in that same way. But the Kshatriya now, because he will be within his works, within his Karma Yoga, particularly, you won't be doing the other yogas. He needs a translation of what he should be doing. Rather, a Brahmana is supposed to know what he's supposed to do. That is why they're supposed to dedicate their whole life to scriptures. They are able to dedicate their whole life to knowing what the other varnas are about. And one particularly distinct thing about the Gita is that rather than putting them like a Brahmana is seated on stage and the Kshatriya is like seated down and the Vaishya is seated far away, the Gita puts all of them like on the same stage. They may be separated, but they're on the same stage, at the same level. You may have a lot of sattva guna, but then when you translate the Karma Yoga for the Kshatriya, you really see that when he's doing the Karma Yoga, when he's doing any type of maybe archery, even, you can see that sattva guna that he is prominent in when he's doing that Karma Yoga. You can see it. However, his other life will be more of Rajoguna. That's fine. But you will be able to see that sattva guna when he's doing that particular activity, which is good at.
Wonderful. Thank you. Now, let me go to other people's questions, and then I will ask my last question. Folks, go ahead and type exclamation mark if you have any questions. Next question is from Skip. Skip, go ahead.
Okay. My question is this. Do all these gunas and tendencies of Brahman, Kshatriya, and so on, do they all exist in everyone, and therefore they are called forth depending on the circumstances of one's life?
Yes, so we talked about this when this topic had come out before, that there is a way of looking at life whereby Janmana Jayate Shudra, meaning the first stage of life, you are thinking about your body. Yeah? And like normally, if you're a kid, you always thinking about your body, like I'm feeling hungry, or I need some stimulation from outside, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
When you get onto like Kshatriya, when you get like a bit elder, let's say 16, let's say 18, there is this sense of karma that you need. Like you need to be a Kshatriya, you need to be in Rajogun, you need to be doing work. It may be for the outside, it may be for like society, it may be for the people around you, for your family. You need to be doing that work, which will involve Rajoguna, and it will be the Kshatriya type of work. It will be the type of work whereby maybe you're a manager, you need to handle so many people who are under you. Maybe you're a CEO and you need to handle people around, under you. That is all the kind of karma that a Kshatriya would, in a context, in a particular type of context. Then, when we are talking about Vaishya and we're talking about like the Brahmanas, there is a when we're talking about like that stage of life, when you're like 18, you're Vaishya, like you need to do all that work around you. You need to be like doing the work, providing to the society. However, when you get to the Kshatriya level, like when you're about 40, 50, you turn back, like you're giving dana, you're giving back to the society, whereby the qualities of Kshatriya, you can see that they are mainly of dana, they're mainly of like, you know all life, so you're not going to run away from life. You're there for life. Then a Brahmana, as you're reaching your ages now, you can devote your time to the scriptures. You can devote your time to getting to know yourself back. And that can also be translated as stages of life. That is a way of looking at it. That's fine. But then also, there are particular kinds of people who, even from birth, you can see them. Yeah, they are more intrinsic. Like they're looking for their swabhava from like a young age. Let's say 16. They are more into scriptures from the age of 17. They are more like, I want to know who I am. I want to know what the universe is. If such a kind of person is there, what Krishna is saying is, you should not take him through the Vaishya, the Kshatriya. You can take him to the Brahmana directly, because he has that within himself.
Yeah.
And that is when the point about Yajñopavit comes in, that when you have Yajñopavit at that age, then you are a Brahmana from that age. However, anybody will normally transit through those stages in their whole life.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Yoshua.
Let me ask one more question. If anybody else has questions, go ahead and type an exclamation mark. So the question is about this idea of Dvija, being born again. That's a very profound idea in the Western context. So can you explain this idea of being born again for a Brahmin?
Yes, so the being born again for a Brahman, there are all these rituals and ceremonies that are pulled around. And then there are those edges, the specific edge whereby you should have known your own Swabhava, and then you are meant to become a Dvija at that time. If you're like, you're supposed to become a Brahmana by that time. Why is that put into place? And how is all that put into context? There is no like, because as we have said, Janmana Jayate Shudra, we're all born Shudra by birth. When we get onto the point of knowing ourselves, knowing whether we are a Brahmana kind of person, we're a Kshatriya kind of person, what would you like to do? What are we? That edge is designated, that by this edge, something should happen within you. Now, it's not designated because the person should be pushed into it. Rather, it's designated for the society, whereby the family should help the person to flower by that edge. The guru, the teacher, should be able to translate to that person what kind of person he is by showing him all the facets of life, by showing him the Brahmana, the Kshatriya. And it's also an interesting thing whereby when you're in the Gurukul at that time, when even Krishna was in the Gurukul of Sandipani, he was working with a Brahman side by side, and his best friend was a Brahman, Sudama. Yeah. So it's not like when you're in Gurukul, there's no division at that time. Division comes when you are elder, when you've come out of the Gurukul, when you can take your own decisions that this is what I have to do. And that transition, when you're in the Gurukul, because Gurukul was a really important thing for you to know your own Swabhava. Without Gurukul, without a teacher who is there to tell you that if you are a certain kind of karma, if you're really interested in that type of karma, then you have a certain kind of Swabhava. Then he molds you onto it and takes you onto that journey and sees that, are you really of that kind of Swabhava? Then the point of becoming a Dvija, that point comes after you've gone out of the Gurukul, like when you're transforming onto your own life. Now you're going to have your personal lives. That translation, that transformation that comes is not only outwardly, as we may want to think, as is portrayed now. Rather, it's more inward. Now I can know Brahman. Now I can go onto the journey on my own because I have all the tools given to me. Now I am born again because I have been put into this garbha. I have been put into this Gurukul that I was in. If I'm coming out of the Gurukul, I should not be the same person as I went in. Because when you're in the Gurukul, you've been given all the tools for life, and not only for life, but your own Swabhava. Then when you're coming out of Gurukul, you've come out of the womb of the teacher. Now, when you're coming out totally different person than you went in. That is a Dvija. Now, a totally different person, not only from the perspective of society, a totally different person from within. By the time you're a Dvija, you've stayed with the teacher, you've stayed with the Guru, you have known what the most intrinsic Brahma is. It is like the teacher gives you that sort of glimpse of what Brahman is. Once you've received that glimpse, all your life, you'll be able to go back onto that glimpse, always. And that getting that glimpse is what we are calling becoming a Dvija, because that glimpse of Brahman changes your whole life. from top to bottom.
Wonderful. Thank you. Let me ask a follow-up question. So firstly, I mean, this is very deep. I mean, it's kind of, you come up to a point and then you have to choose. You know, it has to come from within. It is a mark of transition. It is the initiation ceremony. It is a way of, it's like confirmation, saying yes to a way of life. Now, my question is, I don't know whether, this just came to my mind. Clearly in Brahman, there is that point. Is there a similar point for Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra?
Yes, all of them have that same point. That is why in Indian culture, it is not a student who wishes that I may get into the Gurukul and then I want to go out. No, it is the Guru who chooses. And why is it the teacher, the Guru who chooses? It is because he knows that this person has reached, he has gotten a glimpse, because it's not that only a Brahmana gets a glimpse. No, all, even a Shudra gets his glimpse, because even doing that karma that he's doing, the seva he's doing, he gets a glimpse because he's doing it out of his swabhava. He's doing it with that tweak of karma yoga. And when you do it with that, you get to know what your swabhava is. Then all your life, you don't forget that glimpse. And not only that you don't forget that glimpse, you're always getting back onto that glimpse. It's like in that, you're doing that karma now, not for the money. You're doing that karma, not that society is imparting onto you, but you're doing that karma out of love, because that glimpse is so important for you, that being on your own nature is so important for you. For example, as we know in the context of Arjuna, when he was tested by Dronacharya, he could only see the eye of the bird. Like he wouldn't see anything else. Not the bird, not the tree, not anything around, not even the guru himself. No, he could only see the eye of the bird, like, because that was his point. And then after that, Dronacharya said, yes, you've gotten that glimpse of Brahman within your life. Now, whenever you will do archery, you are going to get back into realizing what Brahman is.
One of my favorite things about that test is Dronacharya asking each student, are you ready to take the test? And only when the student says yes, they go ahead. You can go ahead and string your bow. Wonderful. Folks, if you have questions, go ahead and type an exclamation mark. Joe next.
So this Brahman knowledge, as far as I'm understanding, is that you were then set to go study academically, right? After you have this, like, that's what you're supposed to study scripture. So there's like an academic part to this whole process. Is that correct? I'm trying to understand the process. There's like an academic knowledge.
Yes, so if you're talking about a Brahmana, yes, all the knowledge that the guru could give him, now, not just now, when they're in the Gurukul, yeah, the guru is giving them academic knowledge, is giving them knowledge about the scriptures, the Vedas and the Shastras, all of them, that's fine. But the main thing the guru is looking for within them is getting to their swabhava, because once you get to your swabhava, and now you're living Gurukul, because the guru has said that now you can go on to your own next stages of life. When he gets to his swabhava and he has left Gurukul, now the Brahmana, in his own nature, not for the money, not for the prestige, not for the allowance by the society, nothing about that. He will go on to the scriptures like full-fledged now. He will impart all his knowledge now. And He will do that having known all the scriptures. He will do that having read all he can, not leaving any page unturned. That will be a Brahman nature.
So I want to add to that. I mean, the standard for learning in India is sky high. So when the guru says you're ready, that means that you have mastered whatever has to be taught and can be taught by other people to you, and you are now capable of learning yourself. So academy is not the idea. The idea is that you have it within you to be pursuing your learning for the rest of your life. That's what you're saying when the guru is saying. So it's a very, very high standard. So the Gurukul is simply to kind of prepare you for that. And then you have that desire and ability within you to pursue the deepest knowledge. Joe, go ahead.
Does that impact Indian culture today still? That value that they put on knowledge, in the sense that,
Yes, in some people, you can see it in me a little bit. You can see it in Yogeshwar a little bit.
but yes, that's what I was
And
about to say.
like a good examples, but it is there in a large quantity. So for example, like the idea that you then go into an academy, so do you depend on a university to teach you anything? No, that's not the idea at all. It is like, it is saying that means you consider you have not done anything. You're supposed to be able to figure everything, learn. That's what it is. So the standards are very, very high.
And there's a moral component as well, right? There are ethical components.
Those are all there in there. That is the moral component. It holds that learning is a profoundly moral quest. You're trying to know yourself. You're trying to know the Brahman. You're trying to know everything. And that's where you're starting off. And you're supposed to reach that at the age of maybe 12, 13, 14, wow, something like that. That's where you start. And you work incredibly hard to get there. But to give you a parallel example here, which is completely in the Indian tradition, is Indian classical music. You go and stay with the guru, you practice, you sing basically 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. Since you're, 3 all the way till whatever age the guru says you are ready. And that means you're ready to actually practice your art, not as a performance art, mind you, that you will be able to use your sound yoga, your art, in order to pursue your spiritual quest of reaching out to God. That's what you have, and the rest of the life you build on that. So that is the standard.
Oh, can I ask one more question? So, and when you say reaching out to God, that means reaching out to everyone?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's reaching out to God is automatically you end up reaching out to everyone, but that's not the point.
Okay.
The point is really, it is between you and God. So for example, like Indian classical music, when they would traditionally they would sit with the back, they would sing with the back to the audience, because they would be facing the idol and they would be singing to that. And if you actually do that, because other people, your Atma is similar to other people's Atma, it's the same kind of a thing. You doing that is going to have profound impact on the other people, but you're not focused on entertaining them. You're not focused on doing anything with them. It just happens because you are pursuing the eternal. Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Next up is Allison.
Yes, I was wondering, is education free in India, like for all classes, for everyone? Is, I mean, for primary school, but also I was thinking for college, both.
Sure. I mean, let's look at it in the context. What I want to do is, so firstly, I want to say that the way in which education is looked at is very different in India. So Indian parents will go hungry. They will starve to send their kids to school. And they will do that not as a sacrifice, not as anything, as simply that's what you do. That's the level at which education is prized in India. And if there is a more interesting question, I mean, the thing is that India today is a combination of Indian ideas and Western ideas all mixed together. Let's go back to the time of Gita. Let's look at the older times. And let me ask Yogeshwar the question, what was the learning tradition like? How did it happen at that time?
Yes, so how the learning tradition was at that time, there was a Gurukul type of setting whereby everyone, all are allowed to study for free. And that is done under the supervision of a guru, of the teacher. Now, the teacher doesn't get all the money, he doesn't work. What he does is he teaches the students. It is the Raja, the one who is the king, who is now supposed to provide all the funds for the Gurukul. That was an ample setting for life. When it comes to an individual basis, if an individual wants to go, we can get to that example of Jabala in the Upanishads. He doesn't even have a father. He goes to the guru and says, I want to learn. And there's nothing like, oh, how much fees or anything. It's just like, if you want to learn, just come and learn. Then within that, you have to do everything. Like when you're in the Gurukul, you have to do seva. That is part of karma yoga. You have to do all the jnana yoga, the scriptures that are given to you. And the dhyana yoga and the bhakti yoga, everything is in there. Now, what happens there intrinsically is the guru doesn't only impart the scriptures or the dhyana onto you, but as we have seen, like the guru imparts something more distinct. Like when he's teaching Arjuna archery, he's not teaching him only concentration. He's not only teaching him how to string the bow, he's teaching him something within himself. The Dronacharya is teaching Arjuna how to be Arjuna, not how to archer. Dronacharya is teaching each and every student of his how to be themselves. That's why the type of teaching at that time was totally different. Like in a way where we can see that the target is fine. Like Dronacharya didn't even tell them to release the arrow from the bow when they're talking about the bird and the eye. No. When he called upon Yudhishthira, asked, what is your state of mind? What do you see around? And then Yudhishthira explained, this is what I see. Okay, that's fine. Like, don't leave the arrow. Yeah, because you've not yet gotten there. It's not about you being able to hit the target, because Yudhishthira could do it at that time. That was fine. Hitting the target is secondary. Arjuna, when the Dronacharya knew that Arjuna knows himself now, Dronacharya said, just release the arrow. And that's not for the target now that Arjuna is doing it. Arjuna is just in that state whereby the arrow releases itself and goes onto the target. Arjuna is himself fully when he's leaving the arrow. And such a kind of instance we can see in the book the art of archery in Zen. We can see that explanation whereby it doesn't go to the target. Like the arrow is not meant for the target. Rather, the arrow is meant just to mold you into who you truly are. When you get to who you truly are, then whether you're an archer or whether you are a Shudra who is doing seva, or you're a person who is like doing Vaishya karma, who is doing giving and taking of money, interests and all that, or farming, that's all fine. But if you can see yourself within that karma, then it's fine.
Wonderful. Thank you. I just wanted to add a couple more things here. This is a profound point, the way in which education is looked at. Like the student, like when the student would go to the teacher, education is very serious. It's a serious moral thing in Indian context. So what the guru would be looking for is that, do you really want to learn? That is the most important thing. And that's what, like, for example, let's take Indian classical music. They would see, is there a desire in their heart to do everything that it would take to learn? The guru would know that it's a lot of work. It's incredible amount of effort. And what you're looking for is somebody who can actually do it. And the guru would be completely delighted to find anybody who can do it, whom he thinks can actually be a student. That's all he's looking for, somebody who wants to learn. Similarly, the student is looking for a teacher, guru. Now, what he's trying to learn is not mathematics. He's not trying to learn archery. He's not trying to learn a particular subject. He's trying to learn to be a person. And the guru is going to the job of the gurukul, and the student goes and lives with the guru. And education proceeds 24/7. The whole time is education. Okay, the whole setup is focused on that. So it's really one-on-one. You're really learning from the guru how you can be. Guru is paying very careful and loving attention to understand each student and trying to see how they can flower. And he's helping them flower as best as he can. Then there is the tremendous gratefulness that the student has for his teacher. So there is the concept of Guru Dakshina. So these things, who are like, remember, the biggest problem that Arjuna has in Gita is that Dronacharya is on the other side, his teacher. It is his grandfather and his teacher. He's not really concerned about the other people. He's saying, how can I hurt Dronacharya? How can I hurt Bhishma? That is how he's thinking. So it's very important to understand this context.
And then another point about the guru, yeah. There's one context of education whereby you want something from the guru, like you want the information from the guru, you want the information from the teacher. And that's the context of what education is today. Like you want information from the teacher. And that information can be gotten like 100 students in one class. It's fine, like in a lecture. That information you can get. Or that information you can even get online studies. That's fine. But what type of knowledge that a guru wants to impart onto you at that particular time when Arjuna, Krishna was studying was not just information. There was this kind of everything, like it had the information, not that it didn't have the information, It has the information, it has the moral part, it has how to live in society, it has how to know how to behave with other people. That's fine, that's all fine. But then there was this part whereby knowing yourself was taught, not because that thing you can't teach it like teaching it. You know it by being together. And there was this reverence that the student could have for the guru, like the shishya could have for the guru, whereby because he can see something in the guru, he is even like graceful enough to bow down to the teacher. He's graceful enough to touch the feet of the teacher before any lesson that the teacher gives him, because he knows that I am going to learn not only the information that I could have gotten from outside, I am going to learn something more profound from the guru who is in front of me, something that I cannot really touch right now, but I can see a glimpse in the guru.
Wonderful.
So that
Thank you.
reverence was also important at that point in time.
No, absolutely. I mean, that reverence, and it is the reverence, it is basically reverence for learning, reverence for Brahman, reverence for your own Atma. That is the root. And then there is reverence for knowledge of it. And then there is reverence for somebody who has it. And then there is further reverence for somebody who is having it, giving it to you, showing it to you. Thank you. Next up is Evanik.
Hi, Yogeshwar. I wanted to go back to a point that you had made earlier, and I don't think I understood it. So you were talking about Arjun was his best self when he is leaving the bow. I don't even know if I got that right. I just wrote it down as you said it, and I was wondering if you could expand on that a little more.
Sure. Let me just give you a little bit of introduction, and I'll hand it over. That is part of a really core story in the Indian culture, and we just kind of went through. We did not tell the whole story. So, Yogeshwar, if you would like to tell this story and explain.
Yeah. So what the story is that Dronacharya, who is the guru of Arjuna, Yudhishthira, like all the Pandavas and all the Kauravas as well. He is the teacher of this whole family. When he is a teacher, he has taught his students over a long period of time. He has been telling them how to do it. He's been teaching them the archery or how to know how to carry the mace and all that, all the different types of war equipment. Because they are Kshatriyas by nature, the guru knows them. When it comes at this point in time whereby there is this pariksha, there's this examination. Now, it's not an examination in a kind of like, you have to write down the information you have, but it's a kind of examination whereby the guru is present, the student is present, and the guru doesn't see whether you hit the target. The guru doesn't see that. Guru only sees you when you are stringing the bow, like when you have the arrow on the bow and you have stretched it as much as you can. That is the point at which the guru is looking at you. When the guru is looking at the student at that point in time, he's looking at each and every component of the body, because the body shows what the mind is thinking and the mind shows what you truly are. When the guru first calls upon by order of the eldest, because that was like categorically, yes, the eldest should have learned more. A person who is elder learns more. So calls Yudhishthir first, like Yudhishthir, take this bow, take this arrow and point it towards the bird, which is at the tree. Points it, the guru sees, and then asks, because now when the guru says it when the Guru asks you what you see, it's even one profound thing that Yudhishthira is able to say that I can see all this. I can see the tree, I can see the bird, I can see you as well. And he says it as he says it, that I can see all this. And that question is not for the Guru to know, because the Guru knows, Dronacharya knows his whole position. What this information is for the students. Like, know that when you're in a certain kind of meditation, what will you be able to see? When will I say that you have full-fledged become the greatest of yourself? What type of concentration should you have when you're at that point of knowing yourself? Then he calls upon Duryodhana that come and take the bow and arrow and point. Then he says that, oh, I do not see you, but I see the tree, I see the bird. Then he calls upon other Kauravas as well. They all slowly by slowly get to the point, and Arjuna now gets the arrow, gets the bow, pulls the arrow full-fledged. Now the Guru knows at what position Arjuna is. This is an examination. And he has not told anyone to leave the arrow. They've all put the arrow back. Yeah? They've not shoot the arrow, because the Guru knows if this is the kind of mental state they are in, whether they hit the target or not, it doesn't matter. What matters is their position right now, their mental state right now, and them knowing themselves right now. So Arjuna takes the bow and the arrow and strings it. Then the Guru asks, what do you feel right now? What do you see right now? Do you see me? No. Do you see the tree? No. Do you see the branch? No. Do you see the bird? No. And everybody's like, you don't see the bird, how will you shoot it? And it's like Arjuna is asked now, what do you see if you don't see any of them? Arjuna says, I only see the eye of the bird, like nothing else. That's how focused my meditation is, my concentration is. And then the Guru says that, yes, now you just leave the arrow. And then at that point in time, Arjuna realizes that this is what the Guru is meaning for me to do. Not to hit the target. That's not the main point. Is to have that utmost concentration at any point in time in your life. If you can get it with archery, then if you can get it with archery first, then prolong it with archery, then you can also put it into other facets of life. Like you can take it, the same concentration, and put it maybe to your family, maybe to war, maybe to strategy, all that. But that being where you can be fully concentrated onto something is really important. Not for archery, but for yourself.
Wonderful. Let me add a couple of things. So this entire story is showing the importance of concentration. So what Dronacharya is doing, Dronacharya has been teaching these kids for perhaps 10 to 15 years. This is the final test. And what he's trying to see is, do you have the concentration? Do you have the concentration abilities that when you set your mind to doing something, are you focused? Can you remain focused only on that? And that is what he's testing, because he's saying, if you can do that, I mean, this is based on saying that if you can do that, if you can bring all your attention to bear on your goal and not be able to actually see anything else apart from it, then you will do it. Then you can do it. If you have learned to operate like that, then you have passed the test. So that's what the moral of the story is. All right, so let's see here. It's about 10:30, so we got about 15 minutes. Yogeshwar, let's do one thing. I don't want to rush anything. We can do rest of the, would you like to, you have about 15 minutes. Would you like to do the remaining 2 verses, or would you like to do it another time?
Another time would be better.
Wonderful.
Would have more time to concentrate on what it means.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, so I want to, continue talking about this value of education and this value of learning, which is there in the Indian culture. And it is very hard to communicate that. It is very hard. I mean, I'll give you the example of Ekalavya. I think I've told this story before, but actually it illustrates this point. If anybody else, anybody else who is familiar with the Indian context, if you would like to talk about, the value of education in the Indian context, please go ahead and type exclamation mark. If you're familiar with it, whatever stories you can share, whatever comments you may have, just go ahead and type an exclamation mark. So the story of Ekalavya is an amazing story. Ekalavya was Adivasi, or he used to live in this tribe in the forest, and he wanted to learn. So he came to Dronacharya, and Dronacharya says, you're from this forest. You want to learn? No. I have all these great Kshatriyas that, great people I'm teaching. I don't have time. So he went back into the forest and he built a statue, a sculpture, statue of Dronacharya. And he pretended that Dronacharya was saying things to him, and he learned to be a great archer. Just imagining that what Dronacharya will say, and he trained himself many, many years like that. And once these Pandavas and Kauravas were hunting, and he did some feat. I don't know exactly. I think he put a bow. There was a dog which was barking, and he managed to put, and it was disturbing his concentration. So he put a bow that just closed his mouth. And all the Pandavas and all the Kauravas were looking at this and said, this we cannot do. And who is this person who can do this? We know we have been learning with the best of the teachers, Dronacharya. How is this person who can do it? And they go to Dronacharya. Dronacharya, oh wow, this is amazing. So let's find out who this person is. So he goes, and Dronacharya talks to Ekalavya. And he says, how could you do this? How did you learn? He says, it's because of you. You are my teacher. And I said, how? I did not teach you. No, I said, I came to you. You said no. So I made a statue of you. And now Arjun was very jealous. He says, how could, this is not good. There are people who are better than me. And then Dronacharya did something which I don't really, that's one of the saddest things. He said, look, I'm your teacher. You have not given me Guru Dakshina. So that means you have not given me a Guru Dakshina, means something, offering that you give the teacher. So, Ekalavya say, anything you want. And so he asked for his thumb. Okay, so that means he can't use the bow anymore. So that's the story. But it talks about, look at it, what it is from the perspective of Ekalavya, of the kind of devotion he has to learning on his own, to achieve that level, that within the student is what the goal is. And the reverence that he has. Of course, I don't like the story, but look at the approach to learning that Ekalavya has. And Ekalavya means single pointed attention. That's what it is. So it illustrates the story of concentration, that you can do it yourself. Anyway, so Yogeshwar, would you like to add anything to this story?
Yes, to that story. Now there was one point in it, like Eklavya, yes, he learned on his own, whereby he had a Dronacharya statue, and then he was learning from Dronacharya statue. That kind of even learning, it was like magnificent for Eklavya to achieve. Because even with somebody being by your side, you can't learn to that extent. You can't get those skills. Eklavya got those skills just from himself. In a way, it was from himself. It was his swabhava. One thing that I would like to point out in that story is that if you could view that story in this way, Dronacharya, when he asked for Eklavya's thumb, it was for the reverence that Eklavya has for his guru. And then not only just for the reverence, also, just not for the guru dakshina, or just for the jealousy of Arjuna, like I don't want anyone to get above Arjuna. But look at it from the perspective of Eklavya, because he has not stayed with the guru. Yeah? The guru is seeing that he has gotten this concentration. That is fine. And that is very good for archery. But then what about what I wanted to impart onto him? Not just the archery, not just the concentration, but knowing himself. Where will that go? Yeah? Where will that soft skill, I didn't even call it soft skill, but then like that knowing the Brahman go? Now, when Dronacharya is asking for his thumb, Eklavya gives his thumb, like willingly. And then Dronacharya gives him siksha. Yeah, he gives him siksha for using the arrow between his two fingers, his index finger and his middle finger, using the arrow through that. And he does it perfectly after that. Now, what Dronacharya wants there is that leave your education, that your education is fine, your skills are fine, your concentration is fine. Being with the guru and learning the skill from the guru. Now, it's not about learning the skill now, what Dronacharya wants to focus on. Dronacharya wants you to focus on learning something that is not learnable from the words, learning something that can't be known by activity, learning something about knowing yourself that can only be done when being with the guru or being with a person who knows himself really well.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, now I'm going to open it up for any comments or questions on Gita as a whole. Again, we are coming towards the end of our journey in Gita, so happy to take any comments, any questions. Evanik.
Yeah, I think it's like a comment and a question. So what I got from what you and Yogeshwar were saying about education is that like the target is kind of like equal to the fruit that, well, let me start with the learning is equal to karma, like doing the work and learning about yourself. And then the target is kind of like the fruit. If you're doing the learning for a target or for the fruit, you're not really going to get there. However, if you're doing the learning for the sake of learning, just to learn, that's when you learn more about who you are. And I think it fits in with the Gita because the Gita always talks about the fruit and the goal. And I think from one thing that the Gita has helped me with is this Western mindset of you have to have a goal at the end. Like, why do the work if you're not going to have a goal? And that was like one of the biggest obstacles I had to overcome in learning about the Gita was understanding the fruit is not the goal. The fruit is nice, but the fruit or the goal is not the point. The point is that it's a journey of learning about yourself in different situations, in different contexts, in different things where the only thing that you can control is yourself. And it's not so I think if you're going for the goodness, or just if you're just going for learning about who you are and how you interact, how you react or interact in certain situations, that's the I'm still in the Western mindset of saying that's the goal, but it's the point of learning is to learn more about who you are, and then through that learning about other people and really being interested in other people and seeing the God in other people. And that's what brings, for a lack of a better word, happiness. Am I even in the ballpark?
Go ahead, Yogeshwar.
Yes, so that mindset is really like clinging to us in a way that we have gotten it through studies in our schools, through college, everywhere. Like if we have a competition or if we have a target to reach, that's when we're able to do maybe our assignments, or we'll be able to pass in the exams because there's an exam. Like the most important thing in there is that, like, we are taught that competition thing. We're taught the examination that is going to come, and that's what you're supposed to be preparing for. Rather, what the Indian context of Gurukul, of being, is that at each and every moment is your exam. Take it like that, maybe. Each and every moment is when you are being examined. Each and every moment is very valuable for yourself. It's not that that one moment is more valuable than this moment that you're having. This moment is as valuable. So what you're supposed to do is know what decisions you're going to take at each and every moment in your life. Know what you're going to do at each and every moment in your life. When can you do it? When you have the utmost love, when you know what you're doing, and when you have the utmost concentration in your life. So these skills are what are given to you in the Indian education, like the concentration, the love for the study itself, then the karma yoga itself, like just know it. Then it's not about like, because even like how that whole setup was made by Dronacharya, it's not like Dronacharya tells them from before that this day is an exam. No, it just comes up one day and today I'm going to take an exam for all of you. Like, so it's like for in the Indian context, it's not like an exam is what you're going for, or maybe it is like a post is what you're going for in like a modern employment setting that we have. It's not a post or a hierarchy that you're going for. What you're going for is yourself for the moment that is there right now. Can you grasp the whole moment right now? Then you've gotten what life is.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. I have more things to say about this, but I'm going to have Joe ask the question to Yogeshwar. Joe, go ahead.
I mean, I was just gonna make a brief comment, if that's okay.
We can do that.
Or I'll wait.
Because I want to make sure that we.
All right, let's take care of. Let's make sure to maximize. Yeah, let's maximize his time.
Okay, no, but that's fine. I think we're close enough. If you don't have a question, go ahead and make the comment.
I was just going to make a comment. I mean, basically at a high level, what I've been taking from the Gita, and overall, I mean, it's the depth of which the Gita gives you so many different paths and nuances to learning about yourself, the yogas, the gunas, and how these all interact with one another is what I've really kind of, it's something that it's a lifelong quest of learning that you have to go through. Brahman, just seeing how it influences transcendentalism, just seeing how how deep it is, specifically chapter 13, when we went through the metaphysics of it, and its relationship to almost Aristotle in a way. That's what I'm starting to take is like kind of like some of the practical things are the center and the periphery. And, as we get away from our center, what that means is that we're managing ourselves to externals, and actually what does it mean to be in the center, and then how that allows you to see the center and everyone else. But the nuances that Yogeshwar has given us each week are incredibly deep, and something that we can revisit on a regular basis. The universal principle of Brahman. I mean, that is something that these are transformative educational, I'll say, or transformative things that I've learned. And for me, it was very restorative as a process. I was even commenting today, I'm working in a situation, just I'm going to have to really, focus on, seeing the God in everyone, as far as how that helps me with my interactions. So that's just a comment that I made. I'm immensely grateful to what Yogeshwar has brought. He's brought a very high level intellectual aspect to this that allows us to all go a little bit further with it. So I'm sorry with the comment. I wish I had a question on top.
No, that's thank you. Really appreciate that. So I'll say a couple of things. I want to move to a more general comment. We've been studying Gita, we've been studying Gospel of John, and we've been studying Tao Te Ching. And addressing Avanique's point, I think all three of them approach life very differently than modern folks. It is the modern folks that are focused on, okay, what am I getting now? That's not what the Tao is focused on. That's not what Gospel of John is focused on. That's not what Bhagavad Gita is focused on. All three of them are kinds of virtue ethics. What's the right way of being? And that's the level at which they approach all the questions. Now, so I'm just going to talk about my experience with all three of them, and would love to hear what each of you have on that, because now we're talking about comparative religion and what it has done for us. For me, actually studying all those three have been critical, because firstly, commonalities just come out from these three, and they're so different cultures. The differences are incredible, yet the commonalities stand out. One of the commonalities is this full body integration between body, emotions, mind. This deep integration between the most deepest concepts and your actual life, going back and forth between them. And this is so with Tao Te Ching, with the Bible, and with Bhagavad Gita. I think what each of us is picking up is different based on what we are familiar with, what we are less familiar with. Sometimes in a very different context, you can see something, which you can't see in a context that you're familiar with. Like, you may not see something in the Bible because you're familiar with it. You tend to gloss over it, whereas you can see that in Bhagavad Gita. For me, sometimes it is the other way around. I see things in Bible that they really floor me. And then I go back and say, oh, you know what? This is where it is. But the core point is that this wisdom traditions, 3 different wisdom traditions, have something in common and have a very different way of approaching life, which is profoundly life-giving. And that's something that most modern people do not have. And it has taken me a long time. And just doing this deep dive into all 3 to make that real. And thanks to the fact that it is 3 different things and that we have spent so much time on it, it has become, and I have been able to make it a part of me, which I don't think I would have been able to do either by just looking at one or looking at it by myself or looking at it as a quick read through something. I think this deep dive has enabled me to actually grasp a new way of living, new way of thinking, new way of putting things together that I had not seen before, and would love any comments on this from anyone. Allison, you're also free to talk about anything that you want to bring up. Go ahead, Allison.
I think what I really did not expect to find with these that has meant the most to me is just how important and powerful books are. Because when I look at these 3 books and also Confucius, it's mind-boggling that they were written so long ago and that they've had such a profound effect, partly on the countries in which they've written, but also on many other countries. Because as we become more globally integrated, the ideas are spreading from one country to the next. But it's just mind-boggling because often we think of books as just like entertainment or just things to just keep ourselves busy with. But when a book is really, really deep and profound, it literally affects just like billions of people. And it's just amazing to me that that they can have that power. It really, I don't know, it's a beautiful thing. It really is. And I just feel like it's been just such an amazing thing to experience this. So I really want to thank you for having organized this. And Yogeshwar's phenomenal. He really is. It's just such an amazing joy to listen to him each week.
You're on mute, Sharika.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Allison. Definitely agree about Yogeshwar, what you said about Yogeshwar. One part of it is, yes, books have tremendous impact, but it is really about the ideas in these books. A book is a medium, and there are so many books, but these books capture something so deep, and the influence that they have had is so much more. Also, the point about what these books can do, and how most people approach books actually mirror the ancient way, this kind of wisdom traditions way of looking at anything and everything versus the modern way of looking at anything and everything. In the ancient tradition, it's not just books, it is the water flowing or how you speak. Everything carries the eternal principles within it, and you are holding yourself to that standard all the time, no matter what you're doing. It is the virtue ethic. It is saying, I want to flow like water all the time. I want to do the right thing. I want to follow the word all the time. Whereas in modern times, the attention is fragmented. Everything is seen as separate, as the many. And you are looking for just a temporary, most of us are looking for just a temporary gain, either an emotion or some benefit just from many separate things. And we do not see the integration. So it's the reason these books are particularly powerful is that they bring that way of thinking to us. Thank you, Allison. Next up, and please, folks, take your time to make your comments. Let's go with Evanique, followed by Brian, and then Joe. Evanique.
Yeah, just one thing really quick. I was thinking when we're talking about those three works, and Jordan Peterson always talks about the story, right? That's the story that the Bible is trying to convey. And I think about, Tao Te Ching is poems, but, what is the poem trying to convey? And the same thing with the Gita and the story of Arjuna and Krishna. Like, what is it trying to tell us? Like, what deeper meaning? And the thing is, it's just trying to teach us how to live. And it's simple, but it's not easy. That was like a thing that we had in a training program I took. It's like, it's simple, right? Don't look at the goal, just look at doing the work, doing the work for itself, and Jesus talks about, serving your fellow man for the sake of serving your fellow man, not so that you get something from it, because then it's just transactional, and it just takes it takes it away. Like, if you don't get it, then you're disappointed, then you're, because you're not going at, it's not even about right or wrong, but you're looking at the wrong thing, and you're trying to bring you to who you are. And that's what we all look for, right? At the end of the day, it's like who we are and what are we here to do. And I think those stories, and so many religious texts, which is why I love religion, tries to, and not institutional religion necessarily, but like studying the religions and studying the sacred scriptures, or studying the Tao, or studying Gita, get you at that point of, to your core, who you are and why you're here. Answering those two questions, and you can see how different cultures answer those questions, which I think is the beauty of the text. So I think we got to look at what is it trying to tell us. And so to me, that's thing.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me go with Brian next, followed by Joe. Brian.
So I just wanted to respond that I've also found this very transformational. I have said in the past, and I've even had bodily reactions to this, like opening up, or chills in different ways. I don't remember all the reactions, but and also that it's on occasion it's been breathtaking. I think I've said that in the past. There's these breathtaking insights. But I guess what I'd add is it's, not only takes my breath away, but it also takes my voice away, in that when I don't, sometimes I have the immediate reaction to what's being said. And I think I am more curious now and not so much skeptical.
but I still have the immediate reaction. And I'm realizing that this reaction just doesn't capture the depths of what's being talked about. So I don't necessarily have anything to say. It's more, I realize it's more important that I continue to listen. So I really appreciate it, just as Shrikant said, I appreciate it. All the elements seem to be falling in place here, but the element that I would emphasize is that all of you are sharing, and that helps me to plumb the depths of what it is we're talking about here.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. In the interest of looking at the wisdom tradition, I want to read out a passage. I was reading Kings 1. So this is a dream of Solomon. This is the first time. It is actually a big turning point. I'm looking at the Old Testament and the New Testament. The New Testament is focused on internal. Old Testament is mostly focused on the external and laws and following of laws, whereas the New Testament moves the prime mover inside you, and you asking for things, the Holy Spirit operating in you. And I see Solomon as being the crucial figure in the transition. And this particular passage, at Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon during the night in a dream. And God said, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." Solomon answered, "You've shown great kindness to your servant, my father David, because he was faithful to you and righteous and upright in heart. You have continued this great kindness to him and have given him a son to sit on his throne this very day. Now, Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David. But I'm only a little child and do not know how to carry out my duties. Your servant is here among the people you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to count or number. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours?" The Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for this. So God said to him, "Since you have asked for this, and not for long life or wealth for yourself, nor have asked for the death of your enemies, but for discernment in administering justice, I will do what you have asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart, so that there will never have been anyone like you, nor will there ever be. Moreover, I will give you what you have not asked for, both wealth and honor, so that in your lifetime you will have no equal amongst kings. And if you walk in obedience to me and keep my decrees and commands as David your father did, I will give you a long life." I think this is a very good, I was stunned to see the power of this text, because I see it as a transition of now what Solomon is asking for is essentially what Adam took the fruits of, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He took the fruit didn't do him any good because he didn't have the responsibility to actually produce it. Here, Solomon is very humbly saying, look, I'm in a position where I cannot really do what, you've put me in a position to do, to administer justice in these great people of yours. And I need wisdom for that. And he's doing everything. He's taking the responsibility for doing it. And so he gets the tree of the good, the knowledge of good and evil at this stage. So I thought that is really what the wisdom tradition is about. Solomon is asking for wisdom. The teaching that we talked about is all about wisdom. Tao Te Ching, it's all about wisdom. It is saying, do what is right. So that's what I would say. Next up is Joe.
Something that you said that was really, I think, profound. It's asking for the wisdom, but it's first assuming the responsibility. And there's a lot of ways of demonstrating that. Then you get wisdom. But that is profound to think of it like that. Anything in life, if we approached life like that, we would never complain. We would assume the responsibility and we would gain the insights and right action. It's a way of tranquility. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do. And in that process, you get the reward. This is getting the fruit, as Yogeshwar would say. But you just framed it. It's first, I'm seeking how to help these people, how to judge, but I need wisdom. And so, but I'm doing something. I'm acting first in the world. Just like the teacher searching for the student. Do they want to be here? But then they get it's really profound. It's really, and there is it even brings into context something that one of, I forget, what is it? Jordan Peterson writes about, is that, what is it? There's opportunity where responsibility has been abdicated. And that there's a truth to that. Anytime that there is responsibility that's been abdicated, there is a opportunity to pursue something that someone else is not pursuing. Now we could debate whether that's worthwhile, but it's something. It's more of it's deeper than that. Anyway, that point you made is it's very meaningful.
Thank you. I'm going to elaborate on it a little bit. Let's compare, and I would love any feedback, because I don't know the Bible that well. So I want to compare Adam and Solomon in this particular action. Okay, let's look at the entire context of Adam and entire context of Solomon, and let's look at the differences. So firstly, Adam has God. Actually, God is there in the garden. He's walking around. He's there. Solomon doesn't have God near him. God is far away. Okay, so this God coming in the dream, it's an unusual thing. So Adam is in a much, much better position. God is with him. There is the tree of eternal life. Okay, right there. Now, there is, I'm just going to talk through this. Look at how Solomon starts, and look at how Adam starts. Solomon starts by being grateful to God for everything he has. Adam starts with the help of the serpent of saying, well, is God holding back something that should be mine? That's the doubt of saying, is God being good? Right? That's how he starts, by raising the doubt about the goodness of God. Now, God has specifically forbid him from eating the fruit. God, in this case, has given tremendous responsibility to Solomon, to David and Solomon, which they have been executing with tremendous amount of work throughout. Now, he reaches for the fruit. Okay, and again, the point is that it is the fruit, not the tree. What Solomon is asking for is not the fruit. He's not saying, give me the results of something, tell me divination about this particular thing. He says, give me the tree. Give me the ability to make the judgment. Give me the ability that will produce the fruit, and I will work on it to produce fruits. That's what I want. Adam doesn't want the tree. He's not willing to do the work. He just wants the fruit. Then, when he gets the fruit, his first reaction, and he gets found out that, why did you eat this? His immediate reaction is to say, she made me do it. And then you who made her, the woman that you gave to me, made me do it. So he is blaming the whole thing on someone else and on God. Whereas Solomon is simply saying, I wish I had it, and then I will be able to serve you better. I'm not able to serve you. I'm not equal to that. Please help me so that I can work to carry out my responsibility. The result is, for Adam, Adam is thrown out of the Garden of Eden, because he's no longer is kept away from the tree of eternal life, because eternal life like that is actually not possible. Whereas God gives Solomon wealth and long life without even asking, because that is a natural result of a wise life. So it is really, really powerful to compare these two, because the entire story of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, what it is, and what does Solomon do? Solomon keeps on distinguishing between good and evil. The next thing in Kings 1 is when he judges between the two prostitutes who claim the same child. And he has a way of figuring out who it is. This way of distinguishing between good and evil. So whatever he is doing, so so this gift of God, given by God's grace, he's using in order to further life. So whereas Adam is cast away, and there is this entire progression of him being in this desolate place without anything. So that's what I wanted to say. Joe.
It's interesting because one is seeking power for their own benefit, and the other is seeking power as a way of benefiting others.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, I think that's the major distinction between that, is that Adam wasn't looking to give to anybody.
Yes.
And this is a major problem in the world today. I mean, in this, and how people seek power. It's yeah, that there's, not enough people that seek it to give. They seek it for their own personal benefits, and then that's a big issue. I mean, I don't. Anyway, that's all.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, the point is that Solomon is focused on God all the time. And what he's saying is that, the next thing that he does is that he builds the temple. So it's a permanent place for God. Because of his wisdom, he's able to bring peace and stability and prosperity that allows him to build the temple. So basic idea is that if you do the right things, you bring heaven, create heaven on earth. That's what the moral is. And he's focused only on that. And his doing right by other people is a consequence of his being focused on God, or on eternal principles, or on doing the right things with full wisdom. Evanik, what did you think about the comparison between Adam and Solomon?
I think it's great. And I wanted to add to that. If you look at Solomon, he is a child, and he recognizes that he's a child, and he recognizes that he doesn't know. And that's why he needs the wisdom, because he doesn't know what to do. He is a child, he needs help. Whereas Adam is arrogant in that he thinks he knows everything. And that's why he wants the tree of knowledge. He wants the fruit, actually, because he thinks he knows everything, and that he wants to know everything, and he wants to be better than God. That's why he was able to believe the lie of Satan when he says God is afraid of you, right? There's a certain arrogance there. And in a lot of sense, even though Adam is basically born a full-grown man and given all this responsibility and given all the fruits of that, he just pushes it away. In a sense, he's acting more like a petulant child than Solomon, who is an actual child, and saying, you know what, I don't know, this is new to me. I want to do, like Joe was saying, I want to do what's best for my people, and therefore I need help. It's that sense of I need help versus I know everything.
Excellent point. Thank you. All right, does anybody else have any comments on the comparison between these three works, or what you're getting from it? So we are coming to the end of Bhagavad Gita. We've already finished Tao Te Ching. We have already, gone through the Gospel of John. And we'll keep on coming at it from multiple angles over time. I thought that the Owen Barfield's Silver Trumpet was fantastic because it very much integrates with everything that these wisdom traditions are doing. It's like that silver trumpet, that's how you get back to wisdom, it's a reminder of wisdom. Wonderful. Next up is Joe.
Two quick things. I really think that meetup that I put in the chat does a really, really interesting job of kind of comparing the three religions as in its relationship to virtue, specifically that graphic that you put together. When it was, it's a symptoticon
Yes.
approach to looking at this, and it's worth rewatching. That was a very, very good meetup. I don't know when you did it. I think it was beginning of the year or something.
Thank you. I should look at it to see what I knew back then.
Oh, it's really good. I mean, it is really, you lay up with the Bible, Gita, and Tao, and their strengths and weakness, and just, I think you'd be really interested in some of the things you said if you
Yeah,
listened to it.
I am very curious. I'm very curious. I'll watch it to see what I knew.
You should, because like what you said about like the Bible was kind of interesting. It was kind of like they don't do a very good job. And I was like,
I'm interested in figure out what is it that I did not know back then.
that you know now.
It's So because it's been quite a journey for me.
No, I forget what I was going to say. It was something else. I had something else.
That's something else. Sorry to distract you.
No, it was okay. It was really good. What was the question maybe that you put out? I forget. Did you put out a question?
No, that's just in terms of what you've gotten from these three.
Okay.
And the comparison. So I for me the comparison has been amazing. And so I really look forward to seeing where to take it from here.
And Tolkien had his own language, by the way, if you're interested.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Okay.
Can't speak it yet.
Okay.
But he has multiple languages,
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought he only had one.
No, the different of his people in the different different worlds, they speak different languages. So you can try out many. All right, folks. So thank you so much. We're going to continue Friday, tomorrow. And then on Sunday at 11 a.m., Yasuhiko is going to be here. And don't miss that one, because he's talking about, now I don't know, Yasuhiko always outdoes himself with each of the meetups. This time he's going to be talking about the psychology. The topic is psychology and cosmology of the Übermensch. And what he means, if you look at the description, is that what is man at his best? What is his psychology like? And what is his worldview like? How does he look at the world? What is the cosmology? And what is going on in his psychology? So it is going to be profound. So I don't know what he's going to say. I really look forward to discovering that. Yogeshwar recommended a book to me, which I'm happy to recommend to you. At some point, we might do a meetup on that. It is called Zen and the Art of Archery. Let me see if I can.
It's Eugene Herrigel.
Yes. Could you go ahead and just put that in the chat? You can just put the name in the chat and people can pick it up. So I recommend that. It's a very short book. It's a very unusual book. Zen is based on Buddhism. Buddhism is actually quite different from Hinduism. And as Yasuhiko put it very beautifully, Buddhism is focused on becoming, whereas Hinduism, the Indian mind, is focused on being. So it's being and becoming. That's why Yasuhiko, I mean, this is again his observation, but that's why Buddhism didn't really take root in India, but it spread like wildfire through China and Japan, because ideas like the Tao really are focused on becoming part. And the Eastern mind, takes that it resonated with the ideas of Buddhism. And Zen, which was really developed fully in Japan, kind of takes it to a new level. And this particular book, the Eugene Herrigel book, Zen in the Art of Archery, is an unusual book. Zen is very difficult to grasp because most people who practice Zen, they don't really believe in talking out what it is. They think it is primarily experience. So you have to experience it, and you do it by working with a teacher. Somehow this guy manages to communicate a lot of what Zen is by describing the teaching that he went through, or learning that he went through in learning the art of archery. So it is a remarkable book, and it's possible that we might do a meetup on that. So go ahead and read the book. And thank you very much, Evanique, for putting the PDF link, and thanks, Joe, for the Amazon and the name. So you can use whatever you want. I recommend it highly. It's a very short book, I think 50 or 60 pages, something like that. So you can read it very quickly. It took me just maybe 2-3 hours, something like that. So you can read it very quickly, and it is very profound. And if you end up reading it and are interested in, would like to do a meetup on it, just message me and we will put together a meetup at some point. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. See you soon. Bye.